Welcome back, everybody. Hello, hello. For those who I don't know, my name is Stuart DeCue. I'm the Executive Director of the Yale Center for Business and the Environment and one of the hosts from Yale of this Clean Energy Conference. Thank you for being here for day 2. For those of you who are here for day 1, how was it? How are we all doing? All right. All right. That's better. You know, when Rob asked everybody good afternoon yesterday, we had like a good response, but I feel like that was even more enthusiastic. You know, for those of you who were here and those of you who are joining us just for today, like it opened up with Julie Zimmerman talking about the kind of commitment of Yale as a public good to be doing more in these spaces, to be able to use the kind of full resources of the university to be better on issues of clean energy, to be more applied, more engaged, more involved in the parts of the world that need help. You know, we got to hear from an incredible array of experts in the clean energy field. Jose Antonio and Andy and Jessica just giving us the state of play and where all the kind of market forces are shaping things. And then to hear from Taj and Nicole on really how do we need to think, reconsider, understand the ways that we approach innovation and equity, participation, how do we broaden and connect, how do we speak different languages on clean energy to different groups. And that was all in this lovely contained space at the Yale School of Management. And then we got to go to the best place on earth, the city of New Haven, and get out there and explore this wonderful, wonderful city with all of its energy. And everybody piled into Climate Haven, the new climate tech incubator that is here in the city with 17 early stage companies who are already in membership there, hosted by Ryan Dings and his team. You know, it was loud, it was fun, it was engaging. There's a deep scene of geeky, creative, committed, and compassionate people in Connecticut, in New Haven, and then across the region who are committed to making this work. And we're deeply, deeply stoked to have that here and to be a part of that community and to be a support for it here from Yale. You know, the other thing I just want to give you is like, there are some other people around here I want you to recognize and know. So like, as you checked in for the conference, there are Yale MBA candidates who are doing their like super interview day to day. So like, if you see somebody who's nervous and in a suit and wandering around, just go to them and be like, have you thought about a career in clean energy? You know, we think Yale's a good place for you, but like wherever you go, like, please think about a career in clean energy. So like try to get them moving in the different direction as well. And then the other group is, you know, tomorrow is Veterans Day. And a lot of people observe and their organizations observe that today. We've had a range of veterans come through our program and engage with us. And there's a phenomenon, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, that astronauts experience when they came back from rotating the Earth called the overview effect. And it kind of means like people have a different compassion and engagement on social and environmental issues when they see the pale blue dot from space. And what we've seen from the veterans who've come through here is that same kind of commitment and engagement on clean energy or environmental issues when they come back and they dedicate their time here. So if you see somebody with a veteran tag on there, there's Scott Schwartz from RWE, we've seen people like Alex McRae, we've seen people like Sarah Nielsen come through here, just wonderful, incredible, dedicated folks who have done a lot of work with us. Just say thank you, say hello, and see what they're working on because it's going to be good things. So, all right. Now we get into more great content. We've got 3 amazing tech talks for you today. And you get to also hear from the people who've organized this, put it together over the year, the students that are the kind of engine and lifeblood of the university. I'd like to welcome up Lorena to introduce this panel, one of the student organizers and leaders from the student interest group at the Yale School of the Environment on energy. So, you know, if you want to find somebody who you can employ, you can talk to Lorena afterwards or anybody else. But Lorena, come on down.
Hello, everyone. Well, I guess you know my name by now. I'm Lorena. We will have 3 speakers to discuss a range of methods for bringing sustainable energy to buildings. First, we'll have Yan Zhao. He's a principal engineer and project manager at GTI Energy, where he leads projects in hydrogen research, decarbonization, and air pollution control. Yan works closely with academia, policymakers, and industrial partners on clean energy technology development across the world. His recent research work has been focusing on hydrogen blending into combustion or fuel cells applications and natural gas infrastructure, facilitating disadvantaged neighborhoods on energy efficiency and indoor air quality improvement. Secondly, we have Maddie Murray Clayson. She's a project manager on Green Mountain Power's energy innovation team. Her work involves development and management of GMP's pilot and resiliency zone projects to serve customers and communities around Vermont. She joined GMP after several years working in constituent services in the Vermont's governor's office and in the local renewable energy sector, where she focused on community solar programs and residential solar battery storage development. And finally, we will have Vero Burgmeyer. She serves as a senior director for solar and offshore wind at the Clean Energy Estates Alliance, where she supports the organization's effort to develop programs with U.S. estates and the Department of Energy as part of the Scaling Up Solar for Under-Resourced Communities project and the Offshore Wind Accelerator project. She has also worked in various capacities at Yale University, including case study research at the Yale School of Management, and as program director for clean energy at the Yale Center for Business and Environment, where she built and managed portfolio of clean energy programs, teams, and initiatives across the university. Please join me in welcoming our three speakers for the Tech Talks.
Hey, morning, everyone. So I'm Yan Zhao from GTI Energy. So I suppose I'm going to be the first speaker. And so let's get started. So today I'm going to talk about decarbonization of natural gas pipeline using hydrogen, and also some of the disadvantaged community engagement efforts that we have at GTI Energy. So a brief introduction of GTI. We were founded by the US government in the 1940s. So that was the early stage of the natural gas industry. We were helping the US shift from coal and town gas to natural gas. And 80 years passed by, and now we are trying to decarbonize the natural gas pipeline using different alternative energy sources. So, and here's the brief introduction of the labs of GTI, and we are located in the suburbs of Chicago area. We are only 15 minutes away from O'Hare Airport. So next time when you go to Chicago area, let me know. I can give you lab tours there. And so we are a nonprofit research organization. You can see we have different labs. We are working not only hydrogen blending into natural gas pipeline, but different other technologies. For example, before we blend hydrogen into the natural gas pipeline, we want to test on appliances first. So we work with a lot of manufacturers in the world to test their appliances performance, like cooktop burners, oven burners, and water heaters like that. And we also have this chippery lab. We integrate everything together, solar panels, fuel cell, carbon capture units, and trying to build a microgrid to test the performance of the microgrid system. And we also have, you can see, industry lab. Recently, we have a CEC project sponsored by California Energy Commission, trying to use hydrogen to decarbonize large industrial applications like glass furnace. So here is the brief introduction of the natural gas pipeline, gas transition. So you can see the researcher was doing research in the 1920s. So that was the early stage that we are trying to shift from town gas or coal gas to natural gas in North America. And so in the coal gas era, we had almost 50% hydrogen in the pipeline. So hydrogen was never a stranger in our pipeline. And now we are trying to blend hydrogen back, but this time hydrogen is going to be from renewable energy sources to decarbonize. And you can see on the bottom left here, we can see the CO percentage in the gas pipeline in the UK from 1950s to 1970s. So UK did the gas transition from town gas to natural gas in the 1950s. So by the 1970s, CO percentage decreased. So it's a mixture of CO, methane, and hydrogen, everything. And the CO is a very poisonous gas, and it can kill people. So on the right, you can see the CO suicide rate in the UK dropped when we don't have CO in the pipeline. Because when we have CO in the pipeline, it's very easy to turn on the stove and then kill ourselves. So that is to show the gas species in the pipeline is very critical and have a big influence on our lives as well. So in the past 80 plus years, we have a lot of data from the energy industry that we try to go through all the vintage data that we have and try to make sure this energy transition is smooth and try to learn more from the past energy transitions. So here is the recent released hydrogen hubs efforts from the US DOE. So I think it's around 3-4 weeks ago, US DOE released this 7 hydrogen hubs, which is going to be large projects. Each hub is around $1 billion federal investment, but there will also be co-funding from the industry. So GTI is very lucky. We got awarded 3 out of 7 hydrogen hubs, and we are going to lead the hydrogen efforts in North America. And I know that we have DOE attendees in the conference. Thank you for the trust. So I don't have time to go through all the technical details, but yeah, feel free to reach out to me later if you have any questions on this. So later I'm going to show some hydrogen demonstration projects that we have at GTI. And we are doing research on hydrogen blending, so it's going to be a combined effort, not only the utilization side, but also material science side. What's the impact of hydrogen on different materials? And also we are doing demonstration in neighborhoods. So on the left, you can see we have a demonstration in Delta, Utah. So we are blending hydrogen into a neighborhood. For now, it's around 5%. And so we go to different locations to test the different appliances performance, like ovens or water heaters, furnaces. And we also go to different locations of the city to take gas samples out to see if each customer is receiving a same amount of gas. And I'm going to travel there again next week, so later I can share more information, maybe. And so here is another example of hydrogen blending into appliances. So we are doing a lot of lab testing before we do this in the field. So we are blending hydrogen into different, you can see furnace, water heater, and kitchen burners. So you can see the flame picture is from a low NOx water heater, which is very common in our storage water heater tank. It's just sitting there, but we cannot see it usually. So we blended up to 30% of hydrogen into the water heater. You can see the flame looks very similar. So we didn't find any significant impact of hydrogen on the performance of these appliances. And actually, so hydrogen can help decrease the NOx emissions a little bit, which is good. It's a benefit of blending hydrogen, besides reducing carbon emissions. So we work with most of the manufacturers in the world on appliances. But if we disassemble, there are like hundreds of brands in the world, but if we disassemble their systems, take their burners out, we find out like a lot of them have very similar burner types because there are only like 5 to 10 major burner manufacturers in the world, and we are working with them as well. So we have like 3 major focuses. One is trying to do fuel flexible, trying to use more renewable energy, renewable fuels. And second, we are trying to reduce CO and NOx emissions. Third, we try to boost up the efficiency of these systems. And we are also working with Yale University on decarbonizing the combustion systems. So Professor Lisa Pfeffler's lab on this effort. And next, I'm going to talk about energy justice. So we have a lot of technologies, a lot of cool technologies for decarbonization. How do we apply these technologies into our disadvantaged neighborhood? So as many of you already know, DOE has this Energy Justice 40. So in the future, 40% of the energy investment from the federal funding should have to flow to disadvantaged communities. So we are developing strategies and to engage our disadvantaged neighborhoods to adopt different renewable energy technologies. So here is the mapping tool. I think yesterday we got a question from the audience, like how do we identify disadvantaged neighborhoods? So there are, I think Nicole gave a very good answer already. So this is the mapping tool that we are using. And DOE has this map. It uses 36 factors to identify, evaluate if this neighborhood is the disadvantaged neighborhood or not. So it's not only on the energy burden, but also like language barrier issues or drinking water quality or access to education. So there are different factors of evaluating the disadvantaged communities. So feel free to, it's open access, feel free to explore it on the website. And I'm going to use one demonstration project that we did to engage a disadvantaged neighborhood. So we are working on this project in New Mexico, Albuquerque area, and we secure appliances from the neighborhood. And here in the picture, you can see we not only blend hydrogen into these appliances, but also we are testing these old vintage appliances from different neighborhoods. And a lot of these appliances were secured from disadvantaged neighborhoods. And so you can see in the picture, I was testing on one of the cooking range. So that range, the manufacturer went bankrupt in the 1940s. So that means it must be like manufactured around 100 years ago. And so we had a hard time igniting the oven burner, actually. So there was like an ignition hole on the oven burner. And so I was using the flame torch, the barbecue torch to ignite it, but it just wouldn't ignite. Then we found out it was the hole to throw the match through. So we have to buy match, we don't use match anymore. And then like to ignite the match and then throw the match in and ignite the oven, which is very kind of dangerous technology now, right? We don't do this anymore. We have electronic igniter. And a lot of vintage appliances are pretty fun to operate, but they tend to have higher emissions and lower efficiency. So that's our major concern here. So that means our disadvantaged communities are using these vintage appliances. That means they are wasting more energy, and they might be paying higher energy bills compared to regular neighborhoods. So a lot of local utilities, for example, in New Mexico, the local utilities can replace these vintage appliances for free. So we encourage all the disadvantaged communities to talk to your local utility companies, trying to see if you have a program locally on this effort. So this is one demonstration we have. And just to conclude our disadvantaged community experience, I think there are three things that we learned that are critical in engaging disadvantaged communities. We want to engage local nonprofit organizations. And we also want to engage local utilities, because utilities might be the only organizations in North America that have access to almost every home in the US. And this is a very precious resource for GTI, because we are very lucky. We work with around 3/4 of utilities in North America, and this is very important. And also, a third one is we want to engage our future generation through education programs. So this is very critical. And so our future generation from disadvantaged neighborhoods might be engaging in the clean energy industry later. So you can see in the picture. By the way, the little kid in the picture is myself. Didn't grow up in a very nice neighborhood, so that's why we have, every time we have a picture, trying to take a picture, we have this fake background. It's a piece of cloth, like fake but you can see on the top left corner, a little bit of sky showed up, not very blue color. So later, I was engaged in different renewable energy or clean energy technologies. So personally, I think the education engagement is the most important factor engaging our neighborhoods, and that's why I really appreciate Yale Clean Energy Conference on this effort to engage disadvantaged community engagement education. Cool. So that concludes my presentation. So again, hydrogen, we think hydrogen is a very promising technology to decarbonize our natural gas pipeline. And we had hydrogen before, but this time it's going to be from renewable energy sources. So Hawaii has been using hydrogen in their pipeline for the past 50 plus years, but it's not from renewable energy sources. It's from their oil refinery. So they have this hydrogen as a byproduct. So they decided to blend hydrogen into the natural gas pipeline. But in the mainland, if we want to use more hydrogen, we want to do a more comprehensive research before we do that. And also, we believe that technology development should be conducted in parallel with neighborhood engagement. Cool. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you. So I will transit to our next speaker, Maddie. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Maddie Murray Clausen. I'm a project manager at Green Mountain Power up in Vermont. Before I get started, I want to give a shout out to Jeremy Ravenel, a student at Yale School of the Environment, who is also a summer 2023 intern at Green Mountain Power. So thank you, Jeremy. He invited us down, and we're thrilled to be here today. Jeremy. How many folks have heard or know what Green Mountain Power is? Okay, quite a few. Great. I'll talk a little bit about GMP to start. We're the largest electric distribution utility in Vermont. We serve over 272,000 customers, which is about 77% of the state's load, also about 77% of the state geographically. We're the light green color here. Our utility territory is suburban, but mainly rural, so our customer density is pretty low across our service territory. We're a vertically integrated, fully regulated, investor-owned utility in Vermont. There are about 17 electric distribution utilities in Vermont. And GMP is 100% carbon-free on an annual basis. We're currently 80% renewable in our power supply, but we have a goal to be 100% renewable by 2030. We're a certified B Corporation. We were the first utility to become a certified B Corp, and I think we might still be the only one. But today I'm going to focus on talking about some of the technology that we're deploying to help decarbonize and electrify Vermonters' energy usage, as well as ways that we're transitioning to a more resilient, distributed, and bidirectional grid. We have a large number of behind-the-meter flexible resources flexible distributed energy resources that we incentivize through a variety of different programs and pilots. I'm going to talk more about our battery storage program a little bit later, but just to give some context, our battery storage fleet is about 50 megawatts of capacity. However, over 25 megawatts of that is actually residential battery storage, so batteries in customers' homes spread out across our service territory. We have a flexible load management pilot project for our commercial and industrial customers where we incentivize load shifting for HVAC and other process loads, where we work with third parties to help integrate new or optimize existing building energy management systems so that they can respond to signals from GMP. We have a residential EV charging management program where we incentivize our customers. We provide a free level 2 charger if they enroll the charger in our distributed energy resource management platform, our DERM system, and they get a discounted EV charging rate for their monthly EV usage as well. That program is really successful and popular. When we call peak events for the EV chargers, we're seeing opt-out rates of less than 1%, and we call between 5 and 10 events per month. We have a number of other innovative pilots. There's a really great regulatory framework in Vermont where utilities can test pretty much anything they want in an 18-month period with approval from the Public Utility Commission. So we're testing smart panel technology. We're doing projects with communities that are tailored to the solutions that they need there. So yesterday, Nicole was talking a little bit about the importance of understanding what types of solutions communities are looking for, finding out where there's critical infrastructure, vulnerable residents, things like that. So we're able to deliver solutions right to our customers. And an example of that is our Grafton Resiliency Zone pilot, where we're working on a battery storage project there. I'll talk a little bit more about our resilient neighborhood pilot today, but then we also have innovative pilots where we're able to not just deploy new technology, but maybe try new types of billing mechanisms to help incentivize load shifting to times of high renewable penetration. So that's with our SunMatch pilot. All of our distributed energy resource programs provide a number of different grid benefits, particularly at the wholesale and transmission levels. So we're participating in forward capacity market and regional network service peak shaving. We're able to pass savings that we can achieve through that peak shaving directly back to our customers. So that's really, really valuable. Here we have a couple examples of different technologies being deployed for peak shaving. The top chart is from a couple years ago, and it's a portion of our battery fleet. You'll see in the first day, we actually called 2 different peak events where we shaved the orange line, ended up being the actual peak, and the gray line was the predicted peak. And in the bottom chart, this is the deployment of our EV charging fleet. So you can see a big drop in EV charging consumption when we tell the EV chargers to power down. And then you can see them starting to charge back up around 8 p.m. I mentioned earlier that we have about 5 to 10 peak events per month. We typically see those during the summertime with a high cooling load, although we're starting to see, and we're anticipating that we'll see winter peaks, especially as heat pumps are deployed across the state and winter heating load becomes electrified. This is an example of a peak event from July 2022 where we dispatched a pretty large portion of our battery fleet. So you can see that we had an over 16 megawatt discharge, which translated to over $1 million in saved power supply costs that benefit all GMP customers, whether or not they're participating in our DER programs. And I want to highlight not just the grid services benefits that we get through these programs, but also the resiliency benefits for customers. In Vermont, we're seeing more frequent and destructive winter storms. We have had 6 major storms in the past 12 months, when in the prior 4 years, we hadn't experienced 1 major winter storm at all. And with winter temperatures being slightly warmer, the snow is really heavy, wet, waterlogged, and that does a ton of damage to the distribution system, mainly because it's bringing down so many trees. So even if there's a tree that's not in our right-of-way where we're able to do vegetation management, if it's a 60, 80-foot pine tree, if it's outside of our right-of-way and it's falling in a storm, it's going to fall on the lines. So we've had a significant increase in outages. And that's driving the popularity of our home battery storage programs. We have 2 programs. We have a monthly lease program where customers can lease 2 Powerwalls for $55 a month, or we have a bring your own device program where customers can purchase their own batteries from a variety of different manufacturers. They'll get enrolled in our DERMS platform, and we'll dispatch them for peak purposes, but then otherwise the batteries are hanging out ready to provide backup power. We had a wait list for these programs earlier this year, extending into 2026, because the programs were capped at a participation level of 500 customers per year. We filed a request with the Public Utility Commission in Vermont, our regulators, asking to have the cap on these programs lifted because they're providing such significant benefits to customers, and that was approved in August. So we are ramping up battery installations with our network of local installation partners, which is great for them too. They're really excited about it. And I want to talk a little bit about how we're actually doing this, like how do you dispatch batteries and how do you manage EV chargers? So we work with 2 DERMS providers. The first is Virtual Peaker. They're based out of Kentucky. We have a number of different batteries enrolled in our Virtual Peaker platform, as well as all of our EV chargers. And that allows us to, for the EV charging program, where we provide that discounted rate for the kilowatt hours that folks are using to charge their electric vehicles, we meter their energy consumption at the device level. So we can see how much the EV charger is using. That's how we can translate to the bill savings on their monthly energy bill. Compared to, when we just read whole home consumption on a house meter, for example, we don't know what types of energy is being consumed just through the house meter. So Virtual Peaker allows us to control the devices for peak events and also provide a variety of different financial incentive mechanisms for customers. These 2 charts illustrate the duration of backup power that customers are receiving through some of the storage systems. When we contact customers during outage events to let them know about estimated times of restoration, things like that, sometimes we'll call and they'll say, "What are you talking about? My power's not out, and I didn't notice my power going out." And it's because the transition to the backup power is so seamless. Folks are often not even aware that they've lost connection to the grid unless they're checking their app. We send out text alerts. Not everybody checks their phone. So it's happening really, really smoothly. And this is from a November 2018 storm, back when our battery fleet was much smaller. But in this event, the batteries provided around 3,000 hours of backup power, which was about 13 hours per customer. But you'll see that some customers are managing their usage during an outage event and extending the duration of their backup for days. So we had one customer who got to 90 hours back in 2018, but today we'll hear about customers who are going 4, 5, 6 days just on a 27 kilowatt hour Powerwall system, which is great. And then this is from a more recent storm. You can see the batteries discharging in the purple line here, supporting the home load for about 11 hours of backup. I'm going to shift to talking about a pilot where we're sort of bringing together all of these different distributed energy resource programs into one setting. This is our Resilient Neighborhood pilot. We're working with a local developer, O'Brien Brothers, to construct a fully fossil fuel-free neighborhood in South Burlington, Vermont. O'Brien is a longtime developer in Vermont. They approached us, letting us know that they were going to be building a new neighborhood to find out how we could help incentivize heat pumps, things like that. And we put our heads together over the past few years and tried to figure out, okay, how can we do this so that homes can be fully electric? So it's a 155 home neighborhood. It's being constructed right now. The first home will be completed before the end of the year, with the first buyer moving in January. The homes have a suite of technology that I'll talk a little bit more about, but we're really excited to test this neighborhood as a model for resiliency that we can deploy across our service territory for existing homes and any new and future developments. Vermont's also experiencing a housing shortage right now. It's a pretty significant crisis in our state. So we're looking for ways that we can help incentivize new building that's done in a really smart manner, a clean manner, and that's going to provide a lot of reliability and peace of mind for folks. So every home will have a ducted and mini-split Mitsubishi air source heat pump system. They will also have fully electric appliances, so induction stoves, dryers, things like that. Each home will have a 200 amp span smart panel and a span drive level 2 EV charger, as well as a resiliency package of 2 to 3 Powerwalls, depending on the home size and the equipment load, and about 8 kilowatts of solar on each roof. So when folks move into their homes, they don't have to think about this at all. They don't have to work with a local installer to get solar installed retroactively. The conduit's all been run internally. They'll move in, they'll have their EV charger, they can get their electric vehicle and be ready to go. A highlight that I want to touch on is the SPAN panel. We're using the SPAN as a home energy management system so that we don't have to install 400 amp services in all of these homes. One of the challenges that the developers were first experiencing when they were working with their electricians to do the load calcs on each home, the electricians are saying, I think we're going to need 400 amp services for each of these houses. And then when they go to procure the 400 amp equipment, you can't right now. The lead times are 6, 12, 18, 24 months, depending on the size of the panel or the meters that you need. So we had done a pilot with SPAN a couple years ago, and we brought this solution to them as a way to limit the home sizes and keep them at 200 amps. So we're really excited to demonstrate this at scale for builders across Vermont, especially as more and more Vermonters are electrifying their existing homes or building new fully electric homes. And then the last component of this neighborhood will also be installing a 2 megawatt community scale battery, and we'll be designing a microgrid island for the neighborhood. We have an existing microgrid in Panton, Vermont, which is a combination of a 1 megawatt battery and a 2 megawatt solar system. Here we'll just be putting a battery in because there really isn't room to do a giant community solar size array in a field. But what we'll do with the neighborhood, we're looking forward to designing a variety of different load shapes that we'll be able to test with the neighborhood if we need it to be a load exporting to the grid or soaking up the abundance of solar power that we have in Vermont during the day, or just completely neutral with no power flowing back and forth between the neighborhood and the rest of the circuit. So we'll measure the net load of the neighborhood at the recloser level, and we're looking forward to testing the battery there. So this is a little graphic of what a house will look like. If you're in Vermont, I recommend reaching out to us and you can come check out the neighborhood anytime. There's a number of homes that have been framed up, but like I said, the first one, the model home actually, so you can walk through, will be ready in December. But this This program also rolls up to our larger Zero Outages initiative. So just a few weeks ago, about a month ago, GMP filed with our Public Utility Commission for what we call our Zero Outages initiative, where our goal is to reduce outages on our system down to zero by 2030. And that doesn't mean that outages won't happen, but it means that our customers won't experience outages in their homes or their businesses because they will have multi-layers of battery backup. So we're really going for redundancy here. We'll also be working to underground as much of our system as we can, installing cable and conduit that's pre-manufactured, so you're not having to lay conduit, piece it together, pull wire through. It comes prefabricated. You can lay it right in the ground as you're actively trenching, so we're able to speed up the undergrounding process significantly, do several miles in a day. And then we'll be deploying home battery storage for all of our customers. So we're really looking forward to using this neighborhood as well as a number of our other programs where we know that this technology works, but help bring it to scale for our entire territory. And that's everything I have today. Thank you so much.
That was awesome. Thanks. Yeah, that was a really inspiring presentation. I'm from Vermont, and we have really crummy weather, but we have really good utilities between GMP and Burlington Electric. Okay. So, here I can see my slides down here. So hi everyone, how is everybody doing? Good, okay, awesome. So my name is Vera Borgmeier. I'm the Senior Project Director for Solar and Offshore Wind at the Clean Energy States Alliance. And I am here today to talk to you about using the DOE's Loan Programs Office, particularly the CEFI track, to finance clean energy, particularly in buildings. Okay, so the obligatory slides on who we are and what we do at the Clean Energy States Alliance. You'll hear us, we go by CESA, not to be confused with the California State Energy Association, or there are many other CESAs, but we are the best CESA, if I may say so. We are a nonprofit coalition of clean energy agencies, or state energy agencies, but focusing on clean energy, on advancing the clean energy transition. We have 19 states as our members and the District of Columbia, in addition to a number of we have some national labs. We have one utility, which you can see here. I don't know if you can see. You may try to find your state, but SMUD is our one utility, and they're also a really cool utility. I think they're up there with GMP. All right, so what we do at CESA primarily is we work with states to do three basic things. Not to go into all the projects that we do, but we convene, we inform, and we assist states, right? That's the gist of it. You can see Kroon here for the building decarbonization and clean heating and cooling project, which I do not lead, so I will not talk to you about that. On the Inflation Reduction Act, so obviously the IRA is on everyone's mind. We've been living and breathing and sweating and crying sometimes IRA since last year. It's been a really busy year. So what we do with states, again, is technical assistance, convenings, comments, analysis, information, and we do this across the funding streams, right? So that's the alphabet soup of all the programs that we work on. I just want to flag particularly the GGRF Solar for All program. We've supported throughout the summer until October, 40 states across the country in developing Solar for All programs. So it's been a lot of work. Now, we also work with the Loan Programs Office primarily to let the states know about the opportunity, to try to explain what that entails, and to connect LPO with the right state people as well. We have a case study coming up soon-ish. All right, so when you think of LPO, what do you think of? Like, just shout it out. Gearshot. Yes, that's right. What else? Solyndra. Yeah, so depending on your age, I think you're going to think about either Solyndra, I think of Solyndra, or you're going to think about just fancy, innovative things. They have 4 main kind of tracks for their programs. I'm not going to talk about the first 3, but they're here on the slide. We're going to talk about something called Title 17 Clean Energy, which is $300 billion in loan guarantees that are kind of split across 4 different buckets. And so the first 2 buckets I won't talk about. They're innovative energy and innovative supply chain. So LPO in this case is looking for projects that are either new or significantly altered, innovative projects, right? Well, I am here to sing an ode to the very boring projects that are not innovative at all, which can be financed under these 2 projects here, these 2 programs here, the Energy Infrastructure Reinvestment and the State Energy Financing Institution, or SEFI track. So EIR, just briefly, and I'm mischaracterizing this probably pretty badly, but it's essentially taking old stuff and making them new again. The State Energy Financing Institution is really a pool of funding that can be used by states or by project owners, project developers, to access LPO money, and I'll explain that in a second. So the really exciting thing about this is that it's a pool of funding that can really align federal dollars with state priorities, including with buildings. Okay, so SEFI projects, and it's SEFI, not CEFI or CFI, I asked. The cool kids say SEFI. They're backed by a state energy financing institution, SEFI. So what's a SEFI? A SEFI is nothing. It doesn't have actually a meaning outside of LPO. At LPO specifically, it means a particular type of state energy agency or a green bank. It could be essentially anything, well, not anything, but primarily big state agencies that go to funding or financing, could be either of those, clean energy projects. So think green banks, think clean energy, state energy agencies, think housing finance authorities, think competitiveness funds. I don't know if you guys have heard of those. If you have not, please do Google them, because I think in IRA world, everybody should know about those. There's a really cool one in Minnesota. I don't play favorites, but I like Minnesota. And so the projects that can receive LPO backing under the SEFI track have to receive some sort of support from a SEFI. They have to support the deployment of a qualifying technology. Here is the list of all the technologies that are qualifying under LPO. These are not specific to SEFIs. Those that are specific, so they're for all Title 17. These 3 are the ones that I pulled out as saying, well, these will be the most relevant for this presentation for buildings. But you can obviously make an argument to them that advanced nuclear could be part of a building if you would like. But these are the 3 that I would focus on today. So for example, what could these be? Well, that could be new construction of energy efficient housing. That could be energy efficiency for multifamily affordable housing. Could be electrification in LMI single family homes, solar and solar plus storage, grid interactive appliances. Nothing, it doesn't have to be fancy is the main message that I'm trying to communicate. It really doesn't have to be fancy. It could be really a large number of things. It's very flexible. The SEFI projects also have to receive meaningful support or credit enhancement. So these are very flexible. So the state could say, and obviously not every state is going to have a couple $1 million just lying around, but it's got to be something that comes from a state fund. So thinking, a budget appropriation, RGGI is a good source of funding if you're in the Northeast. Could also be state bonds, essentially anything that is kind of green bank-ish in terms of your green bank funding streams. If you look at those, generally speaking, outside of GGRF and the new federal funding that's coming through, these would be good sources for funding for a SEFI. They're the types of support that they're going to be receiving can be very flexible. So a state could say, I'm going to offer a grant. And that's going to allow the project developer to then access LPO funding, or I'm going to offer a loan loss reserve, or I'm going to offer some sort of subordinated debt, or what have you. It could really be a lot of different things, very flexible. And in terms of amounts, there is no kind of hard and fast rules. I asked them if they had a number. They do not have a number, but so far LPOs really looked at the position of the investment in the capital stack and the amount of support relative to the whole project cost. Big caveat is that a state cannot use federal funding to put in their state money. So you can't take GGRF money, put it in your green bank, funnel it through a project and say, hey, look, I have CEFI. Now I can leverage my $20 million into another 100 million or 150 or 200. So they have very strict double dipping rules. You guys should be thinking about it in terms of how to avoid doing that. Obviously, there's the just don't use federal money to do this, but there's some projects where it may be less clear cut. So, for example, for the Homes and HERA program, for those of you that work on buildings and electrification, there may be a way of using Homes and HERA funding at the same time as you're using LPO funding, but that's something you would have to discuss with LPO. And new guidance is forthcoming. So financing for them, what does it mean? Well, it means guarantees. Primarily, Title 17 is guarantees. But the IRA also opened up $40 billion of loan authority for the projects that are eligible for loan guarantees. So it actually means both, and it depends. What you can receive really depends on the project or the program. So why or why not work with LPO? Well, primarily, thank you, 5 minutes left, I'm being told. Primarily, it's patient capital, right? So it can be as long as 30 years. It doesn't have a minimum. It doesn't have a maximum. And when I'm saying it doesn't have a minimum, you still need to make it worth the while of going through the process. So they tell you in general, $100 million is kind of your baseline. But again, you're talking at a state level in terms of the investment, right? So it could be, you could be talking about much, much bigger kind of programming development. It's flexible, tailored. When I say it's cheap, I mean by that their rates are pegged onto the FFB rates, so treasury rates, plus 0.375%, I believe. And you get access to DOE experts. The big reason not to do this, well, if you want your money tomorrow, don't do it. It's not going to be slow. If you want your money without strings, also don't do it. The federal strings that are attached are the traditional federal strings under IRA. So that's Build America, Buy America. That's Davis-Bacon Act. That's NEPA. That's I'm forgetting one big one, but we'll skip. You get the picture, right? It doesn't come untethered, let's say. So how you translate this opportunity into projects, well, that's where the innovative part comes along. It's really program innovation. So I would invite you, everyone in this room, to be thinking about how to use this money. How could you structure it? And again, it's super flexible, and we need many, 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 many brains to do this. Do you have projects in need of funding? Talk to your state agencies about this. A lot of state agencies know about this, but they don't know how you want to use this money. They don't know how to make it practical. There's so many. So think about it in if you were giving a white piece of paper and you're being told draw some art, right? And if you've never done that before, you're going to be like, I don't know. I guess I'll draw a tree or something. When in fact you could be drawing, the Mona Lisa. So if you've done any kind of drawing before, and this is a bad metaphor, but if you've done a lot of investment in structuring, please do go talk to your state energy agencies. They are completely understaffed, overwhelmed. There is a real administrative capacity issue in state agencies across the country to deploy IRA money. Please, 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 please go talk to them. Please. Do you have state funding that you're seeking to leverage? Go talk to LPO. The people to talk to at LPO specifically would be Elizabeth Wolf and Hans Riemer. They are both excellent, wonderful human, and they would love to talk to you. And what they can do is that they can work on creating workshops with you and kind of thinking through some ideas and helping you understand this opportunity a bit better. There are really two main pathways in terms of the structure. So either the state will back LPO applicants or the state, the CEFI itself, will be the applicant. If the CEFI itself is the applicant, what you have to know about this is that as any applicant to LPO, you will have to provide 20% in equity, so it's not the 100% funding. But and I should have said that in terms of the guarantees, depending on what you can get a guarantee from the federal government for 80 to 100% of your project costs. This is a massive, massive source of funding. We're talking $300 billion, 100%, right? The second structure is the state backs the LPO applicant. So you can either do a state fund with kind of an RFP to identify your projects, right? Or you could do individual project backing. So that means you as a project developer or a project client or a lender would go and find your state and say, hey, I really have this cool project. Can we, is there a way you could give me a grant or something? What can we do for you to provide enough funding that is meaningful that I can now access this LPO funding without having to show any kind of innovation for things like weatherization, efficiency, solar, storage, nothing fancy, all the things that we do every day. So who's done it so far? No surprise there. Only NYSERDA has done it so far. So the New York State, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and they've done it. So they launched the program in September, and so it's a funding a program approach with a standing RFP. You can find it online if you Google CEFI NYSERDA PON, which is like their word for RFP. Because they're NYSERDA, they're special. And they do $20 million, they have $20 million per year allocated to this for 3 years for projects that achieve goals in the built environment. They have a $3 million per award maximum. And they offer, they will offer that support to specifically lenders that will seek financing or that will offer financing for projects in disadvantaged communities, and that also applying for LPO, obviously. The DACs here, disadvantaged community, I wanted to flag that this is the DAC definition from New York, not the DAC definition from the federal government. These are very different things. I can talk to you until the end of the day about the different definitions of environmental justice community. If you'd like to discuss this, I would love to talk about this. And these are the kind of projects that they're available for. The projects can be based in New York, or should be based in New York, but interestingly, for you out there, if you're looking for funding, they are also offering backing to projects that are outside of New York. If the New York State projects in their portfolio is greater than 20% of the financing facility, or if there is a leverage, they're leveraging capital of a 20x kind of level. So there's ways to access that funding for people outside of New York. So go look into it, and that's all she wrote. Thank you very much. Should we sit down now?
Yes, we're going to.
Yeah, okay.
So this part of this section of the program is going to be a Q&A, so where we are going to take questions from the audience. So can we have a round of applause for them again, please? So we're going to have 2 mics that we'll pass around for anyone who has questions. You all can raise your hands, and then we can go through it one by one. Maybe I can start off. There's a question over there in the corner. Yeah.
Thank you all for presenting such insightful presentations, especially like the breadth of the building energy space. This is a question for the Green Mountain Power community or neighborhood development project. Like, what was the what are some of the lessons that you're learning through the process, thinking of it potentially being a model across the country, particularly with the IRA and all of these funds and a focus on community development? I would just say, what are some of the best practices that you're seeing through that project?
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a great question. So for the resiliency package with the power walls and the solar systems that will be on every home, Green Mountain Power owns that equipment, so we own the solar. So the production tax credit is a huge advantage through the IRA for us in that. We're also, I didn't mention this before, but it's a mixed income community. So there are income sensitive housing units as well as market rate housing units. we are so excited for the HOMES and HERA funding to start flowing down through to states so that we can help our customers take advantage of that funding. So we're waiting on that piece from the IRA. But as far as some other lessons learned go, it's a giant construction project, and we have a variety of different subcontractors who are actually doing the work and building the homes outside of O'Brien Brothers, the developer. And so it's really been a huge opportunity to do as much education for subcontractors up front around clean energy technology as we can, because we're working to deploy this in a really holistic manner. In Vermont, our housing stock is much older, so folks might do a heat pump system 1 year. Ideally, they'd weatherize first, and then eventually, be able to finance their heat pump system, and then get solar. It's really piecemeal. So we're taking this opportunity to try to do it all at once, and get contractors who have different specialties to learn from each other and work together to do it right, and so that the systems are working for folks. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, the one behind him, yeah.
Hi, thank you all so much for sharing. I also have a question for Green Mountain Power. So Vermont adopted California's clean car standards last year. I'm wondering, how has that affected how Green Mountain Power has planned for EV infrastructure, stuff like that? And also, there's a provision under ACC2, which is the community-based clean mobility programs. I'm wondering if Green Mountain Power has any projects or incentives for EV ride sharing, car sharing, etc. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. We are really excited about the deployment of electric vehicles in Vermont. We're starting to see the pace ramp up. I think most recently there's a nonprofit or an NGO organization, Drive Electric Vermont, that's pushing a lot of the adoption to EVs. And I think most recently they said we have around 10,500 EVs on the road in Vermont now, which is pretty significant. There's only about 600,000 people who live in the state. So it's happening. So something that we're getting ready for is more load on the grid from electric vehicles. But in Vermont, we've done a lot of work to reduce our peak load through efficiency projects. So we actually have quite a bit of headroom for folks to adopt EVs. So we're not too worried about that right now. GMP does offer, we have the EV charger incentive, but we also have incentives for vehicles themselves. And we have a variety of different fleet incentives. So helping commercial and industrial customers, universities, schools, municipalities with fleet adoption. And those are all custom incentives. So we'll work with them based on their project needs and the type of ridership they have to incentivize EV charging. And again, vehicle incentives directly for fleets. Oh, and we do e-buses too. I didn't mention that in the presentation, but we have a really exciting pilot with Highland Electric for some electric buses. They're proliferating across the state, but specifically the pilot is to test bidirectional charging with buses because those are huge battery resources.
Yeah, I will take the last question over here. Thank you.
Doctor, this is a question for Dr. Zhao. Thank you very much for your presentation. For some reason, I was completely unaware of efforts to decarbonize the natural gas infrastructure, so extremely hopeful. My question to you is, what is the Gas Technology Institute doing in terms of long-term studies as far as the impact of hydrogen insertion on the infrastructure? And here I'm particularly thinking about hydrogen embrittlement. If maybe that's a solved problem and I just don't know about it, but I'd love to hear what's going on in terms of understanding the long-term effects of hydrogen insertion on the natural gas systems throughout the country.
Sure, yeah, thank you for the question. So the question concerns the hydrogen embrittlement on the materials, right, on the pipeline. So for people who don't know what is embrittlement, is basically two processes. So hydrogen is a very small molecule. It can damage some metal surfaces. And so two processes, one is physical, one is chemical. Physical is it can crack the pipeline material. Second is it can react with the carbon content in the pipeline, forming CH2 or methane. So it can damage the pipeline as well. So we are doing a lot of research on this topic. And there's also famous Nelson curve that you can check on the pipeline material recommendation. So we have pipelines that can resist hydrogen embrittlement. But as you mentioned, a lot of pipelines right now in North America are not using these materials. So that's why US DOE has this hydrogen hubs efforts, and this is part of the infrastructure bill, right? We are trying to replace the old pipeline into hydrogen compatible or other renewable gas compatible gases. So, yeah.
All right, I think it's going to be time soon to move to our next thing, but I want to thank all three of you, Vero, Maddie, and Jan, for the super interesting.
Thank you.
That was a great presentation.
For the super interesting presentation, and thank you all for your questions and listening. And I'm going to pass it off to Julia for our next event.